You can hardly overemphasize the importance of this. It's just a great history, and not just Minnesota history, it's Canadian history, it's Western history, it's the history of travel and exploration.
At that particular time, ships, if they wanted to go to the Orient, had to go all the way around the tip of Africa or the tip of South America, making a journey to the Orient 3, sometimes even up to 4 years. There was this perpetual hope that they could find a Northwest Passage, some way to get across North America.
Almost all of that begins with the travel and exploration of a single family.
Pierre La Vérendrye is a soldier for the king, Louis XIV and Louis XV, and he and his sons and nephews take off across the Great Lakes.
Most of those trips were done without government financing. At the very, very tip of the northwest angle, he built a fort, Fort St. Charles.
At Fort St. Charles, they're trading with the Assiniboine, they're trading with the Cree, they're trading with various bands of the Sioux.
It was kind of a point where they would go off and build other forts. So there were about 9, 10 forts farther west and farther north of Fort St. Charles. One of the important historical things, or what people get excited about on Lake of the Woods, is the story about Massacre Island. And that was one of La Vérendrye's sons, and 19 voyageurs and a priest, Father Aulneau, were going east to meet a resupply team, and they were all killed.
The bodies of the priest and La Vérendrye the younger are left whole, but the voyageurs, the 19 voyageurs, are actually beheaded.
This wasn't an insignificant event. It was, the French called them Sioux. They were Dakota that killed all these voyageurs and traders. That began a war between the Dakota and Ojibwe that lasted a long, long time.
The elder La Vérendrye has his son's body, the body of the priest, brought back, as well as the heads of the individuals retrieved from Massacre Island and taken to Fort St. Charles. La Vérendrye the elder keeps moving west to try to find the Northwest Passage, and at some point the bodies are essentially forgotten about. As the water changes, as the tides go in and out, the spot is actually lost. The Fort St. Charles essentially collapses. Around the turn of the 19th to 20th century, the priest family finds a cache of letters. And in the cache of letters, it becomes more clear where the priest is buried. And then it's in the 20th century that there's a massive effort to find the priest. They finally discover 2 skeletons, and they're pretty dang well certain that they belong to the priest and Jean-Baptiste La Vérendrye. Some of the 19 skulls, not all of the 19 skulls, are recovered.
Just kind of excites the imagination of historians mostly. And Fort St. Charles, that was a big thing when it was rediscovered, and recreating that fort was a pretty big deal. Ownership of that land was a big deal. It had changed hands many, many times before it was finally given to the state of Minnesota.
Funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund, with money from the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4th, 2008. And by the members of Prairie Public.